Well, hello, brothers and sisters. Hope you're doing well today. I am not in my normal route of recording. As you can tell, these are some heavily wooded areas. This is not even behind my house. This is actually not even in Fort Smith. I'd be curious if you knew where I was just by looking around. Probably not. There's a lot of places in Arkansas I'm sure look like this. Well, this is Devil's Den, the Yellow Rock Trail, I think it's what it's called. It's about a 3-mile hike to the top overlook to see the mountains. I enjoy coming out to the Devil's Den. Definitely do it more in the fall. And that's one reason why I'm out here today, because it's in the upper 80s over here and a lot more endurable, maybe lower 90s. Anyways, if you look behind me, you see the trail and you can see that I've been walking a decent distance. You might say, well, Blake, why are you at Devil's Den today? What do you enjoy about going on trails? Well, I wouldn't consider myself a professional hiker or even have all the appropriate equipment. I'm dressed, as you can see, like I just came from the gym. But anyway, this is what I do. I enjoy it for a couple reasons. Number one, my job as a pastor is I'm doing a lot of mental and emotional work, heart work, caring for people's souls, studying a lot, and staring at a computer screen, having lots of conversations, leading meetings, listening to a lot of people. And so a lot of the ways that I get fatigued, if you will, is from giving myself emotionally, spiritually, mentally, if you will, for the good of others. So one of the ways that I refresh myself is getting out in nature. God's physical creation, breaking a sweat, doing something physical, and still using this time to read, reflect, journal, but really sightsee and just enjoy a little downtime. Well, today in Proverbs chapter 24, the proverb I want to draw your attention to is actually one of my favorite in the Proverbs, because I do find that I quote this a lot, both from my life and in counseling others. It's one of probably the top 10. Proverbs 24:27, prepare your work outside, get everything ready for yourself in the field, and after that, build your house. Now, this proverb, you don't have to be a Christian to understand this. The basic idea here is first things first. The goal is I want to build my house. The goal is I want to establish a home, a family, an estate, mark out territory that could be property and the homestead, if you will, for your family now and maybe for generations to come. That's the goal. That's why you're building a house. But the proverb says before you do that, some other important and more significant things have to happen prior to building your house. And so he starts off with an agricultural, most likely, form of living. Prepare your work outside and get everything ready for yourself in the field. What's he talking about? Well, most people, back when the Proverbs were being written, if they weren't in the military or worked under direct supervision of a king or were in the Levitical priest, they would have been farmers in many ways. Of course, merchants and sellers and other that sort of thing. But many people did work in the farm. That's how they brought in their livelihood. And so the idea of, I want to build a house, well, that's going to cost money, right? Houses, regardless of, how big the house is, it's going to be varying in price from the materials you have to use, where in a state, county, town, or country you're building, how large it is, the different kind of specs to it. And we can even think about that today. Is it going to be a house with 1,500 square feet, 2,000 square feet, 4,000 square feet? Is it going to be up on a hill, by the ocean, by a lake, in the country? Is it going to be in the heart of a city? I mean, there's so many different things you have to consider. First, before you even do that, you need to know, do you have the money? Is it the right timing? Do you have certain debts that need to be paid first? Do you have certain obligations in life you need to take care of first? Is right now even the right time to build? You know, the economy could be a certain, working against you in a certain way. The housing market could be having a difficult time. You could currently be in a career or job right now that prevents you from being able to think much about 5 years from now. You're having to really finish some major projects in the immediate. There's so many different variables you have to have before you say, I'm going to build a house. And the proverb is saying this: prepare well. Before you can do something, before something can be well done, it needs to be considered well in advance. It needs to be considered with wise, diligent, thoughtful, strategic preparations. Well, friends, I don't know what your goal is right now in life, whether that's just make it to the next class, make it to the next exam, care for the next child, work the next day, work the next shift. I don't know what your next thing is, but I want you to think with me for a minute. Where would you like to be 3 to 5 years from now? You know, some of you, if you're in your 60s, you're probably thinking, yeah, 3 to 5 years from now, I'm really considering retirement from a full-time employment. Well, what are you doing right now to get ready for that? Are you meeting with a financial advisor? Are you looking in your savings or 401k, or looking at your assets and your equity to see what do you have that would be sufficient to carry you financially into your retirement years? Does that mean downsizing? You know, some of you might be thinking about the future and wanting to be better stewards of God's money. You might be thinking, you know, kids are growing up, or whatever the situation might be. Maybe we've bit off more than we can chew. Maybe we need to downsize, and that extra, you know, $2,000 or whatever the, you know, amount of money you would be saving by living somewhere that's less expensive. You need to start thinking about that now, if that's something you want to do. If you're wanting to go to graduate school, or you're wanting to get an apprenticeship or an internship one day, you need to be having conversations now with the right people. Begin talking with those who will help you steer you in the right direction. I say all that because I think one of the things that we struggle with as believers, and this is nothing new, is patience. You know, many of us, when we see something we want it now. We want it in a hurry. We start, God, give me this, give me this, give me this, or we easily quit. Because when we realize, oh, I want that house, or I would love to be in a job situation where I have these type of freedoms to be off at this time so that I can spend time with my family, that I can have this kind of vacation, this kind of et cetera and so forth. And it doesn't mean you can't have those things. It just means you need to do the hard work now and be patient in that preparation so that you'll be where you want to be 3 to 5 years from now. And so, friends, as you're thinking about your future in the next 3 to 5 years, it might feel like a long ways off before you're where you'd like to be or accomplish some goal, but it starts right now with preparation. It starts right now with plans that are being well considered, diligent, making diligent progress, getting coached or mentored along the way in ways that could help you. And that's just like this trail. This trail is going to end up at a destination. It's going to end up at an overlook. It's going to end up at the top of a mountain. And so in the same way, each one of us are called to walk down some kind of trail. And the Lord has these longer and shorter trails along the way in our pilgrimage as we follow Jesus. Sometimes it feels like we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death. Sometimes it feels like we're walking through a wilderness. Sometimes it does feel like a stroll in the park. It's nice and sweet, and there's green pastures and still waters. Either way, the Good Shepherd remains the same. And the proverb here is calling us to persevere in our preparations. Make your goals. Think about where you'd like to be. You must think about the next 3 to 5, 10 years, not knowing what tomorrow holds, but it starts with preparation now. So what level of studies in the Bible or in your particular craft or career, or maybe you're wanting to start a business and you're thinking to yourself, I know where I'd like to be. I know how much money I'd like to make. What is it going to take for me to get from where I'm at today to where I want to be? Surround yourself with people who are already doing what you want to do. Surround yourself with people who seem to have obtained some level of success in their craft or skill. And as you make these plans, and as you prepare that work outside, and as you continue to be diligent little bit by little bit, before you know it, you'll be where you want to be by God's grace. The Lord's timetable is perfect. And sometimes that preparation is weeks and months. And sometimes that preparation is years. Just from my own life, make it a very simple illustration. I'm 37, about to be 38 years old in a few weeks. It was never on my mind to ever consider being a pastor seriously until I was around 24 years old. I was serving in the youth ministry alongside my youth pastor. I was about 1 to 2 years into marriage, no kids yet. And I remember telling my senior pastor that I would happily step in as the interim youth guy because our other youth pastor had to step down. And but I said, I'm not really sure that's what I'm called to do, or if I'm supposed to be in pastoral ministry. And I just remember him saying something like, yeah, not yet. And he kind of gave me this grin. And he had been watching my life for some time. Well, over the years, I've looked back on countless conversations, countless hours at conferences, sitting under other men's preaching, the amount of hours reading books, buying books, researching, counseling, teaching and preaching, getting tons and tons of practice. And I can remember doing all this even just in my 20s when I wasn't a pastor. And I can remember people speaking into my life saying, I think this is what the Lord's directing you to do. But it just seemed for an extended season, he was withholding that desire and that opportunity. And that was largely because he was preparing me. He was testing me. He was pruning me. Still does all those things, of course. But I look back in my life, just even now at 37, and can I look back 13 years later and realize, or 13 years ago, I can look back and I can see all along the way, the Lord has been preparing, getting me ready to be a pastor of a congregation in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I've had the privilege now to pastor in a few different congregations' lives for different stints and different roles. But I just wanted to share that just to encourage you guys. That you don't know where you're going to be 3 to 5 years from now. You might have your goals, you might have your plans. But the Lord says, if you got a desire for something, you got a goal towards something, you need to prepare now. Persevere in that planning. Think well about that planning. Work hard. Sacrifice. Save. Research. Surround yourself with the right people. Continue to be in prayer. Ask God to change your heart in accordance with his heart. Search the scriptures daily. Sit under the regular preaching of God's word. Seek wise guidance and counsel. And friend, just keep walking down the trail. Keep walking down the trail. The Lord is leading us. Even when sometimes it doesn't feel like it, even when it feels like he's tiring and weary, but he's leading us. So friends, my question to you is this. What are you doing to prepare? What are you doing to get yourself ready? What are you doing to take the steps that God holds you and I responsible to take to be where what we trust is what God has put on our hearts? May that simple principle, first things first, do the next thing. Lord, what is that next thing for me? Who is that next person I need to talk with? The next meeting I need to be at? The next seminar, conference, or lesson, or teaching I need to grow in? And no matter what, the Lord's with you every step of the way. He is the one who makes all of it possible. He marks out the trail. He leads us up the trail. And he's waiting for us at the destination all simultaneously. God bless.